Hello world, this is Culture in Quarantine, and we are rolling into week 6 here in the UK, and wanted to welcome you into my studio. Part of the reason why we're doing this is to give you some ideas, help you create at home. I'm filming here by myself, and virtually the idea is to inspire you to try things in your home. So today we're playing with color, and part of the process of developing as an artist is to cultivate your own voice. And I paint like myself, and while I admire artists like Titian and Constable or Georgia O'Keeffe, I also have over time developed my own style, my own way of approaching making, and I'm going to try to encourage that, to take what you learn from other artists but make it your own. Tim Marlowe at the RA talks about his reaction to painting with hairs that stand up on the back of his neck. And for me, that artist is Mark Rothko at the Tate Modern. When you go into that room, his work is transportational, and he envelops you in color and draws you in. So how do artists do that? How do artists approach color? I studied with Neil Welliver, who studied with Joseph Albers, and the artistic legacy is a study of pigment. Modern painters are fortunate enough that we already have ready-made pigment, which we can choose from. But artists used to make their own pigments, and there's so many numerous elements to consider, because color is elusive and it's a product of culture and nature, and it interacts with physics and light, and our brain unscrambles it. It's a powerful emotional tool that enables us to feel, and I see color and mixing color as essential artist tool in an artist's bag, and I spend hours looking at color and mixing again, trying to establish relationships between color. I create paintings on site where light defines color, but I also have now started to work from memory in a similar way that Howard Hodgkins does, and he looks at color and then brings it into his studio and sees color in his mind's eye. Color helps define a space. It can bring an object forward, or it can help it recede. Another of my favorite artists is a San Francisco Bay Area artist, David Park, and I saw a fantastic painting of his. It was a figure standing in a bathroom, and the figure was like a bright lobster red, and all of a sudden I started looking and I saw this blue coming at me, and blue typically recedes and red usually advances, and this was the reverse. I thought it was masterful, and also the hairs sort of stood up on the back of my neck at that point when I realized it was a sunburnt man standing in a shower with cold water cascading down on his shoulders. It was brilliant, and he had used color in such a way and established these relationships where he performed a mastery of color execution, and the entire painting was a cohesive whole. Think of the interaction of color as it makes a relationship. It may be appearing lighter or darker depending upon what is around it. For me, the edges of the painting that meet are most exciting, and you want to be asking yourself questions. Is this blue that I'm looking at more green when it's next to this brown, or is it more violet when it's next to this red? Think about the interaction of color. Now let's talk about the artist's palette. I paint with 16 colors. I start with lamp black, which was made from soot. I use burnt sienna, cadmium red, a violet, a Payne's gray that I added here when I moved to Britain because gray is a big part of Britain. I use a Prussian blue, an ultramarine blue, a cobalt blue, a cerulean blue. I use Hooker's green, a sap green, a bright green. I couldn't paint the salt marsh without the yellow ochre. I use a yellow cadmium deep, a lemon yellow, and a titanium white. Neil Welliver painted with 12 colors. And James Coleman shared with me Zorn's palette. Zorn was a Swedish artist that painted at the beginning of last century, and he just used 4 colors: a yellow ochre, an ivory black, a titanium white, and a vermilion. And I did try to just use those 4 colors, but I found it too restrictive. And for those of you who know me, I'm more of a pushing boundaries kind of a woman. So I'm sticking with my palette. Color fits into composition through defining shape. And let's look at some Wayne Thiebaud painting. Go ahead and Google Wayne. He does those beautiful slices of cake with a deep shadow. And they're very simple, pure paintings. And I think it might be a good way for us to start. I'm going to try to do a coffee cup today with loose, juicy brush strokes and mixing color. So let's get into it. You're going to paint with a larger brush first down to the smaller brush. You're going to look at what you're doing. I've set up a really small object to paint here. It's basically a cup of coffee. I'm already connected to this coffee cup. I bought it in Florence, and I've had numerous cups of coffee with friends, and so it has a connection to me already. I've placed it on this simple blue fabric. It has natural light coming in, and on this side there's a deep shadow. It's also picking up some secondary color from the furniture around it, and it has reflection. So I'm looking at this material already, and for me it's a cobalt blue, a bit of violet, and white. I'm looking at the shadow, and that has some Payne's gray in it and maybe some brown. I'm looking at the actual coffee, and that would be the burnt sienna, the black. I would put some cadmium red and some violet and some yellow ochre in that. And I'm going to start with the background first, and I'm going to work my way forward. So I'm going to pick up some of this cobalt, and I'm going to mix it in, make it nice and juicy. I'm going to give myself enough to really make it so that I can cover the whole piece of the paper. I've covered this paper ahead of time. I've covered the paper with a gesso, and then I did a drawing so that we can just pretty much get to the demo, so you guys can see that I'm adding my white, and I'm going to try to get it a bit of the value, and I can always go back. I'm going to pull a little bit of the violet in. That's too much. I'm going to have to stop that down. It's all right. There you go. So now I'm feeling good. I'm feeling that. I'm going to make myself typically a base color, and I'm going to lighten it and darken it. So I've got my tones so I can play with my light. There's my white. So I'm going to cover actual surface area as much as I can. Quick and easy, fast, laying it in quickly, not being fussy about it. You can move rather quickly. Got my background. I'm going to add some darker Prussian blue and some Payne's Gray. There you go. Take it down even more. There you go. I'm going to pull in a bit of black. Put a bit of cobalt in there. See what I get. Beautiful juiciness. Just going to lay it in. So now I'm going to take a round brush and I'm going to lay in my white. I have to put some more white out. Not a problem. I have it all here ready to go. Squeeze it out. All right, so I'm going to add a little bit of the highlight. I'm pulling in a bit of that lemon yellow just to give my white a pop. And again, I will just fill in the big areas. So you can see what I'm doing. I'm not getting fussy, just going real easy. Then I'm going to lay in my gray. Actually, there's a rim that's white, that's beautiful. So I'm going to allow that to bleed over the edge there. Go all the way around. So you can see I'm sort of building my shapes with color. I'm going to lay in some gray. So the back end of the coffee cup has depth. I'm going to pull in a bit of that blue into my shadow because that's probably reflecting. So here is the shadow for the handle of the cup. Here is the shadow of the cup itself. Laying it in. Okay. Actually, I needed a different size brush. So I'm going to lay in the handle of, I'm working fast here, so take the top, there's my mug handle. Yeah, I've got to go here for the white of the plate. Now I'm going to mix my green. I'm going to lay it in. So this green was a bit of yellow ochre. It is a little lemon yellow, and it is Hooker's green. And so I'm just going to go around and do a quick little drag. Oh my goodness, they're making, of course, you know, when you're doing your studio at home, you always have a neighbor who is hammering. There we go. Here's the rim. Let's get to it. There's some hash marks on the edge of the cup. And I'm going to get the back of my brush. And I'm going to do some dots of green to represent the dots here. And I'm working quickly. I mean, 10 minutes on a painting. So, you're going to want to take your time doing this, but I'm just sort of laying it in quickly to give you an idea of what I do. And then lay in some coffee, which is black, it's purple, it is burnt sienna, and quickly goes in. There you go. In order to hit the surface, I'm going to take a bit of that yellow, and I'm just going to lightly give it a whoosh, whoosh, whoosh on top. There's my surface of my coffee. So I've done one ahead of time. This is #GetCreativeAtHome, and I look forward to seeing your paintings, so go ahead and have fun. The idea is to just do it. Just have a lot of fun. Look forward to seeing you. Be well and stay safe.